Veteran on the Move, number 31. Welcome to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you're a transitioning veteran, an entrepreneur wannabe, or someone who's still stuck in that job trying to escape, this podcast is dedicated to your success. So welcome aboard, sit back, and enjoy the ride. Matt Theriault is a Marine veteran from Desert Storm and founder of Epic Real Estate. He has worked as a full-time real estate professional since 2003. After building a small real estate empire with hardly using one dime of his own money or 1 point of his own credit, mostly because he was lacking in both, he discovered that he has a knack for simplifying the complicated, implementing systems, and producing desirable results for himself and others. All right, I'm talking with Matt Theriault from Epic Real Estate. Now, before we talk real estate, Matt, can you tell us a little bit about what you did in the Marine Corps?
Sure. That's getting to the point. I love it. Usually that's where the story begins, not where we dive into. So cool. Thanks for asking. I got into the Marine Corps initially as a reservist. I had just decided I didn't want to go to college anymore. But then I felt like, oh my God, I need something to fall back on. I don't want to be homeless. I totally panicked. And, when you're in that panic mode, you do what every logical, rational person would do and join the Marine Corps. So
yeah, that's what most of us did.
Yeah, I walked in the recruiter's office and said, hey, where can I sign up? And so I said, okay, whatever I do, I want to make sure that I learn a skill that's transferable into the civilian world. And then I want to get this college aid thing and this GI Bill thing or whatever. And so that was the whole plan. And so I went in the Marine Corps and I went in as a unit diary clerk, as payroll, and went through boot camp. It was like the worst experience getting involved because I was like the one company that started everything new. So everything was extended. So my initial training, which we had on a little schedule that we set up with the recruiter, was like, okay, we're going to go about 15 weeks and then I'll be right back in school and won't miss a beat. And, I guess almost a year later, I finally joined my reserve unit. And then about 6 months after that, we all got activated for Desert Storm, and I was on active duty the rest of the time. So I was an active duty Marine for the whole time, and I was an administration clerk.
All right. So as you transitioned out of the Marine Corps, what kind of stuff were you doing just coming off the Marine Corps before you got into the real estate gig?
Yeah, I had when I was a teenager, I had one foot in the music business. I was a music producer.
Uh-huh.
And I was doing that all through college. And since I was stationed at Camp Pendleton almost the majority of the time, I was able to kind of manage that a little bit, keep my relations going in the music business. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, I had just gotten signed to a recording contract with EMI Records.
Wow.
And so that was my transition was that. And then we released one record. It got played on the radio a couple times, and the career was over. So,
all right.
So that's what happened right after the Marine Corps, and I started my own record label. I was an entrepreneur, kind of always by spirit, I guess, and did really well for the next 12, 13 years, selling records, selling CDs, and the digital download came along and wiped us out, wiped almost the whole industry out, and had to start over. I was bagging groceries at age 34.
That's humbling, huh?
Yeah. It was one day you're Puff Daddy, and the next day, poof, it's gone.
No kidding.
Yeah, and so I was bagging groceries and did that for about 6 months, feeling very sorry for myself, not knowing what I was going to do next. And there was one day I remember that I guess I must have been looking sadder than usual, and the store manager had noticed, and he pulled me aside, asked me what was going on, and I told him basically the same story I just told you, a much longer and more dramatic version, but the same story. And he pulled me up to his office and he just kind of laid out that, hey, Matt, if you want to create your old lifestyle, if you want your money back, the final frontier where the average person has the greatest shot at creating great wealth is in real estate. And look what I've done. And he laid out everything that he's done. And I was like, okay, I'm a believer. I got to learn something else. And so I might as well learn the thing that gives me the greatest chance of recreating the lifestyle I'd formerly become accustomed to.
Yeah. So there was the store manager at the grocery store that got you going on this?
Yeah. Remarkably, he was a really smart guy. He was 28 years at that grocery store. So he was 2 years away from his pension. And during those 30 years, he had managed to acquire 6 apartment buildings. So he was 2 years away from having a full pension and a really strong residual income from his apartment buildings. And I was like, okay, that looks like a good plan.
So you always hear stories about people going into real estate and doing quite well and hitting it big. And actually, I think we own about 8 houses right now, 8 or 9 houses right now, counting the one we live in. But it hasn't always gone, so great a lot of the time. And real estate's full of surprises, that's for sure. How did you finally get your feet wet in the very beginning and get started?
Sure. I thought that night when we had that conversation, I took a bottle of wine home, went home and just started Googling. And I stumbled across an aunt that I hadn't seen in 15 years. And it turned out she was the #1 real estate agent just a couple cities over. And I sent her an email that night. And in the morning she had responded. We had lunch that day. And within 48 hours, I was in real estate school to get my license.
That's quick. Yeah.
Yeah. So it had happened really quick. I was really fortunate in that regard. But then kind of discovered after 4 years of being a real estate agent that, if real estate is where the money's at, I think I'm sitting on the wrong side of the desk because my clients were doing a whole lot better than I was doing. And so then I had to make that transition from agent to investor where I started buying and selling my own. And so that's how I got started.
Okay. And so can you go over some of your initial investing experiences? I mean, were you just buying them the standard old way, going to the bank and getting a mortgage, or were you being creative about it?
Oh, very creative. You have to get creative when you just filed bankruptcy from a defunct record label. And then your wife left you. And one of the things that she left you with was piles of credit card debt and consumer debt. So I had no credit to speak of. So a bank was not even an option for me. And I got fortunate enough to find a really good educational program right off the bat that, kind of showed you how to do everything without using a bank. And in hindsight now, I'm like, gosh, banks, that's just one way of acquiring real estate. There's probably, 20 more ways that don't involve a bank at all. So I learned all those different ways and just got started one by one. I remember my first property was a little dilapidated house in Long Beach. And it was a total wreck, totally uninhabitable. It looked like someone had started a project there and then evacuated or abandoned it.
Yeah.
And so I did some research and found the bank that owned it. And that's exactly what happened is they bought it as a flip project and they ran out of money. And now it was stuck on the bank's books. And so I said, I'll take it. That's what they told me to do in my education. They said, just say you'll take it. So I put it under contract and they said, and then worry about the money and the finances, worry about that later, but get control of it, get it under contract. So I did what they told me to do. And gosh, within, probably 3 or 4 days, I had found money partners because I had a good deal under contract. I had control of the deal. And one thing you learn in real estate is that's who makes the money. That's who calls the shots is the person that has the deal. The money's kind of the easy part. But the money's not easy until you actually find the deal. So that's how it became, and I made them partners. And because I controlled the deal, I got to dictate what I was going to get percentage-wise. And they brought in their crew. They had all the experience. They did all the work, and I got I remember the check was about $22,000 for that very first deal. And I was hooked. I was a believer.
I would say, what a deal.
Yeah, we took that single-family residence and turned it into a fourplex. And so it was essentially almost like 4 times the money of what the house was worth.
And then there was no going back after that, right?
No, you couldn't. And it took me about 8 or 9 months for me to get my next deal. So when you say that real estate is not all it's chalked up to be and it comes with challenges, I experienced them all along that way. And
yeah,
but I was persistent and I stayed with it and eventually got the knack of it and was able to do it consistently.
8 months till deal number 2. Did you ever get tempted to jump in on something, but you knew it wasn't right just because you hadn't had a deal in so long?
Yeah, I kind of made my way around a couple different multi-level marketing companies, just trying to make ends meet and where I could have flexible hours and still pursue the real estate. And boy, that's a dirty world. if you've ever been involved, and it wasn't for me. But
I've tried several of them.
Have you?
Some people do quite well, but it's not easy.
They do, but I kind of noticed the people that did well, at least in the avenues that I chose. I didn't think there was all that great a character, and the Marine Corps taught me better than that. And one of the things is integrity, and I felt that industry lacked it, at least my experience. That's what I noticed.
And so where are you at now with Epic Real Estate?
Sure. So When you are bagging groceries one year and then, just a few years later, you are not, and you're basically doing what you want to do with your days and playing golf on Tuesdays, the people around you, your friends, family, and associates, they kind of take notice. Like, wait a minute, you just lost everything. You're bagging groceries. And now, like, you're playing golf on Tuesday. What are you doing? So you get a lot of people intrigued.
Yeah, give me a little of that.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of coffee meetings, a lot of lunch meetings, a lot of dinners of people saying, can I just pick your brain? I don't know how many times I've heard that. I'd just like to take you out to pick your brain. And I just kind of discovered, like, the entrepreneur in me is like, wow, there's a demand to learn how to do this. And I did it in a very unique way because I didn't have the money to get started. I didn't have the credit score. And so I started to teach that, and it turned into a pretty good educational business, but it turned into even a bigger we do it for you type business. So I have a do it yourself type business, one side of it, and the other side is if you don't want to do all the heavy lifting and you don't really have the desire to do all the heavy lifting because you've got better things to do, we'll do it for you. And that turned into a huge business. And the whole time I'm still building my own portfolio in the background.
Now, how does the we'll do it for you part work?
Yeah, we go out and buy properties, distressed properties. We fix them up. We put a tenant in them. We arrange the property management, and then we sell that as a cash flowing asset to, it's very cliche. It's doctors, it's lawyers, it's small business owners. It's busy professionals that already have careers, but understand the advantage and the benefit of owning real estate, but they don't have the time to do it. And they really don't have the desire to do it. They just want the cash flowing asset because it's really difficult to, if you've got a good chunk of money, to find some place to put it in a way that it would actually work for you today. So that's our business. And we kind of stumbled upon that on accident, and it just turned into a lot of repeat business, a lot of referral business. And now we've grown up, and I think we're in 10, 11 different markets now.
Wow.
We have at least two teams in each one of those markets. And, I live in Los Angeles, and this is all in the Midwest and the South where, our people are getting double-digit returns on their cash investments and carrying no debt. So turns out we hit it at the right time because there's a big demand for something like that.
So once you've done the flip and you got a producing tenant in the property, most of these people are coming in and just storing some cash in the house and then making a return on their money.
Exactly. Our sweet spot. Where are you located, John?
I'm actually in Kansas City, the Midwest. So.
Oh, okay. So we've got properties in Kansas City.
Okay.
That's good. And then we're in St. Louis and Kansas City and Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus, Memphis, Indianapolis.
And you're able to run this from California too, right?
Yeah. And I run it from California. We travel, I don't know, once a quarter, which I don't mind. And, but what people out here in California, because a lot of our clients are in California, is they don't recognize or realize that houses, you can actually get 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom houses between $50,000 and $100,000 in a halfway decent neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so that's our sweet spot. And they can come in, and a lot of people have $50,000 they don't know what to do with. And so we're getting them involved in $50,000 houses that produce anywhere from $700, $800, $900 in rent. And after all the expenses are paid, it's still a double-digit cash-on-cash return, not to mention all of the other benefits that go along with real estate.
Yeah, all the tax benefits and everything else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the appreciation and depreciation.
Yep, you got it. You own some,
Yeah, yeah. And so this is is more or less your bread and butter at this point with the business, right?
Yeah, it's definitely taken off by itself. It wasn't our intent. It was just kind of a side service we decided we were going to offer, and now it is the primary income stream for us. It is our primary business. We are switching things up a little bit because I've got over 250 units in my own portfolio. So we're kind of smushing everything together, and we're opening up a hedge fund next month. So we're going to do it all under one umbrella and just really simplify everything. Because when you start owning that many units and you got that many partners and then you're helping that many clients, the bookkeeping becomes a real nightmare. So,
oh yeah, that's a lot of loose ends.
Yeah, so we've spent a great deal of time and money in the last few months to simplify our lives, and that's the next step for us.
So I always like to ask, I mean, I guess you could say you've made it at this point, or you're doing quite well at least. Could you ever see yourself going back and being an employee?
Oh my God, it's so funny you just said that, because I just had breakfast with my girlfriend and we went to Corner Bakery. I don't know, do you have a Corner Bakery out there?
Yep, got a few of them.
All right, so You go to Corner Bakery, you walk up to the counter, and you go and then they bring you your food. So it's not a traditional waitress that's helping you because you got to go up and order the food. So we were getting ready to leave, and I just put $3 down, and she goes, "You're going to leave a tip?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I kind of made a gesture over towards the girl that was cleaning up all the tables. And I was just like, I remember what it was like to be there. She deserves something. I mean, it's like, I could never, ever go back there. I mean, I think if I had to do that again, I would just curl up in a little ball and disappear. I just don't think I could ever work for anyone else. And by no means have I made it. I mean, we're doing well, but it's not like I could just stop working today and I'd be fine for the rest of my life. So I just remember what it was like, and that fear of what it was like and what that was to be bagging groceries at 34 years old, taking your lunch breaks with 16-year-olds. That fear keeps me going, because I recognize, like with music, it happened almost overnight. My life was turned upside down because that digital download, the Napster thing back in 99, took the whole music industry by storm. And, Sony laid off 10,000 people, then Universal laid off 10,000 people, and Sony did it again. And it put all of us little record labels out of business. I mean, just overnight, my whole world was turned upside down. And I'll never forget that. And I just, I see people doing these really tough, thankless jobs, and God bless them. So I could never go back there.
Well, we've got a 16-year-old that just started his first job, and the 15-year-old's trying to find one, and the 14-year-old's trying to find babysitting jobs and that kind of stuff. And it's interesting to see them struggle. And you want to encourage them to go out to work, obviously. And of course, I'll try to throw in the entrepreneurial mindset or ideas once in a while. They're just not getting it at this point.
Right.
I think you almost have to go out and experience that pain, and then somehow either an opportunity or almost a tragedy, or by necessity, find your way into the freedom known as the entrepreneurial world, and actually have a little bit of success before you're able to not look back. Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking that the fact that I had achieved a certain level of success rather easily with not a whole lot of effort as far as music goes, just because I loved doing it so much, and it just happened. It didn't seem like work. And then to lose that and be knocked down to where you were when 20 years previously as a teenager, that's painful, and that will become a part of you, and you'll never forget that feeling. So maybe there's something to be said for that. Yeah,
I know that there's a number of veterans out there that are being told they're getting out. Some of them not by choice, and our military is drawing down quite a bit over the next 5 years, just out of necessity with the wars winding down. And a lot of veterans, they want to go start their own business. They want to get into the world of entrepreneurship, but they just don't really know how, which is why we try to feature folks like you, especially veterans, that have found a way to make it happen and to be running their own show out there, regardless of what the business is. And in the context of a veteran looking to get out, looking back on what you've experienced, what kind of things come to mind when you're thinking about, you've got a veteran coming to you, maybe he's still in, or he's just getting ready to get out or just got out, but he doesn't want to go get a job in corporate America. Maybe he doesn't want to go to school, or maybe he doesn't want to go to school again, and he really wants to do something on his own. I mean, what kind of thing comes to mind if you were talking to somebody like that?
Well, the first thing that's coming to my mind is still get a job. Get something to at least so you can feed yourself.
Yes.
Because starting out as an entrepreneur, I mean, you can go broke and hungry really, really quickly. And so that would one thing. Like, get something knowing that it's temporary. That's the first thing. Second thing would be, don't sell yourself short and just take anything. One thing that I remember when I was in was, everyone kind of has the same values. Everyone's kind of doing the same thing. Everyone's on a schedule. Everybody just kind of blends in, and everyone appears to be the same. And when you come out of the service, you can quickly recognize, and you should recognize this actually before you get there. And don't be cocky or pompous or arrogant about it, but recognize you are special. You are an elite person amongst society, especially when it comes to what employers are looking for. I mean, me being an employer of 8 people now, that's the hardest part of my job, is finding a good person. And recognize that you are a good person and you are exactly what an employer is looking for, and don't sell yourself short when you find that stepping stone job. Okay. So that would be my words of advice on finding and looking for a job.
All right.
And then now, while you've got that job and you can feed yourself and you've got shelter over your head, start looking for something where there's a demand for. Look for a problem to solve. And that can be through a product. It can be a service. It can be something that someone else has already solved, but you just know a different way to do it, or a better way to do it, or to serve a different person in doing it. You just got to find that idea. You got to find that thing. And, if you can find something in alignment with your own interests, even better, because then it's, you're going to enjoy doing what you're doing. And I think the advent of the internet has opened up the world of entrepreneurship to so many people that would have never been able to discover it otherwise. And so I would look at it at being able to deliver that product or service on an internet platform. That's what I would look for.
And you're right. There's really so many legitimate ways to be running businesses online. And actually, some businesses, almost by necessity, have moved to the internet away from the brick and mortar, because you don't have to have an office structure. You don't have to have all those, the rent, the leases, or whatever it may be.
Right.
You can just basically a distributed work team out there, even for your typical company. But if you're somebody that's looking to get into the entrepreneurial world, something to do with the internet, even if it's partially online or heavily online with showing up in person once in a while, it's a very successful model these days. So,
yep, it's the way commerce is done, really. I mean, so much of it.
Now, with your own business, are you spending a lot of time doing stuff via the internet? I mean, you say you only travel once a quarter typically, so you're obviously doing some stuff in person, but what's the internet doing for you as far as being able to manage these project teams essentially that are going in and stripping houses down to parade rest?
Well, haven't heard that expression in a while. I like it.
Welcome back.
Thank you. As far as the internet, we find when you're in real estate, you have to be able to generate sellers and you have to be able to generate buyers, and then you get in between, and that's kind of how you make your money. So you get in between, and that's how you make your money in real estate. And so we find our sellers the good old-fashioned way, with a lot of direct mail and a lot of phone work. But with our buyers come through online. So our customer acquisition comes online. And just the internet and the ability and the multiple ways to advertise and promote your business it's just an extreme leverage tool to where you can reach so many people. I mean, just by the nature of a podcast, we reach people globally, and we've gotten clients from all over the world in almost every country, not every country, but I'd say every continent for sure, that have become clients of ours. So I think that the internet is just, you don't have to go and knock on doors and pound the pavement anymore just to generate customers. And you're not stuck in your own town or even your own city or your own state. That the world is available to you, and you don't need a whole lot of the world to produce a good business.
Yeah. So obviously you have to know somebody on the ground in the other town that you're looking at properties and stuff. And how do you work your way into those kinds of relationships?
Sure. Well, it started, we didn't go into all 10 markets at the same time. We started in a market where we already owned a bunch of property of our own. So we had our own people there working that were introduced to from someone else. So we had a property manager, a couple property managers, we had a couple contractors, and so we started to leverage them to do the same for our clients as they were doing for us. And then when the demand got greater than that market could stand, and let's go to the next city over. Do you know anybody over here that does what you do? And so we just kind of worked our way through the whole Midwest and all through the South on getting referrals from our existing team members.
And so how do you go about protecting yourself legally in this case? And the reason I bring it up is we were in were just finishing up a house flip ourselves, and the contractor put a lien on the house, so we couldn't sell it. And so we've been going back and forth with that. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but
sure.
it has been settled at this point. So we're cleared hot, but it did chew up a good portion of the summer, the summer sell season for us. So, and it wasn't all that pleasant of an experience.
Sure. Well, we've got a couple different systems in place where in each market I have at least 2 contractors and at least 2 property managers, and I make sure that they know about each other. So that kind of indirectly injects a certain level of competition into the mix. And I find that increases performance. It reduces expenses. So I think that's one level of it. The other level is they know it's consistent business from us. So they know that there's more coming. So they're going to want to appease us on the one that they're doing now.
Yeah, they don't get to bleed you dry on this one because they'll know you have another one coming.
Because they know they got more coming. And then I guess, and I don't know if this is different than anyone else. I always take the high road. I find that it's less expensive to take the high road than it is to take the road where you're right and to prove yourself right. So we've written a lot of checks just to make problems go away, but it's, I think in the long run, it's a cheaper way to go about it, especially if you're doing volume. And not only is it cheaper, I think it puts stuff behind you. It doesn't weigh on you, your psyche. Mentally it's behind you, and you don't miss opportunities that were there. So you don't have the opportunity cost as well when you operate that way. So those are 3 ways that I think we've been able to navigate relatively unscathed. But we still have our challenges just like anyone else, for sure.
Okay. And so we're getting towards the end of our time here, Matt. I'd like to give you a chance to put a plug in for yourself and your products and website that you offer folks, and then give you the final word, especially in the context of if you're speaking to a veteran out there that's looking to get into the world of real estate.
Sure. You can find me if you're listening to Joe's podcast, then you obviously know how to find a podcast, and you can find mine at Epic Real Estate Investing, or you can just go to epicrealestateinvesting.com. That'll take you right to the feed. And so if you're interested in real estate, that's how you find me. My words of advice for someone coming out is don't spend too much time getting ready to get ready. There's a great book called Ready, Fire, Aim. Just get into action. Travel as far as you can see. When you get there, you'll see further. Have faith in that. And I think you're going to be okay.
Great words of advice and lots of wisdom on the world of real estate. So thanks for being here today, Matt. And it's been great talking with you, and look forward to talking in the future and seeing your success out there.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes. Reviews are always greatly appreciated. So until next time, this veteran is Oscar Mike.